Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Bob, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Absolutely. So everybody, today's guest is Bob Spoerl, founder and CEO of Bear Icebox Communications. They are a Chicago-based PR agency that helps underdogs win big media placements from the Wall Street Journal to CNBC across 15 different countries. Bob is a Northwestern University grad and built Bear Icebox back in 2016 after learning lessons from a failed startup, which is pretty common, I think, for entrepreneurs. We all have some tough times. But now they've got an amazing business. It's on pace to double this year. And we're going to learn from Bob today about lessons learned, the ups, the downs, and how things are going at Bear Icebox. So Bob, thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Andrew.
Absolutely. So before I go into all my questions, maybe just give the audience a little bit more, if you want to, about the company or yourself. Tell us about Bear Icebox.
Yeah. Bear Icebox, as you mentioned, we started almost 10 years ago now. We service primarily B2B companies and professional service, manufacturing, some franchise clients. And so most of our clients come to us for communications, consultation, public relations, media. And the first question I always get is like, what is public relations? And sometimes I say, I'm not always sure what I do, but I know I do a lot of things for our clients. And our team does a lot of things for our clients, but it's public perception. It's building a brand. It's that kind of top funnel visibility.
I mean, there's a ton, I would think there's a lot of PR agencies out there. I've worked with a bunch across the businesses we've had. How do you guys go about differentiating in a busy market?
Yeah, it's not always easy. I'll be honest. So we've developed a 9-point ROI framework that we use, and we take a very sort of technical approach, analytical approach to what we're doing. We strive to make data-driven decisions, looking at website analytics, looking at are we aligning with our clients' business growth goals? Because the reality is, like, PR for vanity's sake is just silly, right? We'll get calls from somebody like, I want to be in this publication. Why? Probably because you read it before. But if your audience isn't digesting it, or it's not going to have impact in terms of your strategy to reach new clients, probably not the best bet.
For sure. And thinking back to the businesses I had in the past, we worked with PR agencies, but it was hard to measure, like, all right, man, we're spending the amount that we're spending per month, whatever that was. Mm-hmm. How do we know if we're actually how are you guys measuring ROI? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So there's a number of different KPIs we can look at, but ultimately what we look at is, the best way to measure PR is to think of it as a larger or part of a larger ecosystem of marketing or communication. So, if website traffic is going up, if we're looking at social engagement, if that's increasing, if we're having more leads come through the funnel, it may not be something that you can directly track to a story, but if we have a boost in like share of voice, which is a fancy way of saying like we have more exposure in media than this other company does, and we're also trending and we're keep hitting our marketing numbers. Clients that work with us and value it, they acknowledge like part of that broader awareness that we're creating in the marketplace is driving people here to our different channels, and so there's a bit of a faith element to it, which I know, again, it's like we're getting much better at being able to track. Like we'll have when we put out big reports for clients, we'll have separate UTM tracking, like, which is a way to sort of say, okay, this traffic came from PR, but I think there is just especially in B2B, Andrew, it's like you're going to a trade show. Everybody knows who we are, right? It's a feeling kind of thing, but when you know it and you see it, it works. And we've got clients that have been with us since the start, and they see a value in sort of having a baseline level of engagement in third-party media and third-party influencers.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I think it intersects or overlaps with a broader thing about just marketing attribution in general, because it's really easy to look at like dollars in, dollars out from a particular channel, whether it's LinkedIn advertising or Google or PR or whatever. But this is really hard because that's not how consumers consume, right? Or that's not how they engage with media. You may be on a site or Facebook or whatever, see an ad, not click it, then go to Google, search for that brand, and then click. And so that looks like it's coming from Google, but it's really not. Or you may see it once, it just registers in your brain. You know this. I'm probably preaching to the choir here. So it's hard as somebody who is pouring in the capital into this, but you really do have to keep in mind that it's multiple touch points across a variety of channels that really matters to get that brand recognition, which is super important because then you're going to see it with conversion rates or inbound leads or whatever. And it's easy to say, oh, it looks like they're coming from Google, but if you turn off these other channels, everything starts to drop.
Yeah. Well, and really, I'd say different companies in different stages should prioritize, PR in a different way, which is sort of an obvious statement. But what I mean to say is a startup might need PR because, look, we just received a big round of funding. We need to let people know we're here because our investors are saying, like, let's get out there, let's move really quickly. PR is a great way to do that. Like we had a client at a feature piece in a big tech publication, and those eyeballs there, that led to more funding for them, right? And that's the kind of story. Oftentimes, startups will look to PR for that way. I would say when you turn on PR too early, it actually can be a hindrance. Like I've had to either turn down prospects or just have honest conversations and say, like, I don't think you need like media exposure right now. Like, it's not going to help you. Like, if your product's not ready, if your service isn't ready, if you've got a lot of issues with delivery, like, it's the worst time to tell people, like, hey, come and buy our product or service, right? So I do think there's people get really antsy early on to try to like strike it big, and I think it depends. And I see this a lot in sort of the startup world where you're so excited, you want everybody to know about what you're doing, but the reality is, again, if you're not ready, it's going to cause more harm than good.
It's wasteful. Yeah. I've seen that play out where VCs push the founder and as a first-time CEO to do some big media release about the funding, and it works and it drives people, but they're not ready. So you can't capitalize on it. So what the hell's the point? I've seen that play out. I've also seen people not lean into PR when they should have. Maybe they want to sell their business and they should have been doing PR for the year leading up to it to try to maximize exposure and get people interested and excited about it. And that can help. And so I've seen both.
Yeah. And we've had several clients do that, sort of legacy companies, a founder looking to exit or just, and kind of cash out as what you do when you run a business, right? You want to, you want to see the fruits of your labor at the end of that. And so, it's worked out well. And sort of a funny story, we had that happen with a client we were working with, and then the acquirer didn't have an agency of record, so we ended up working with them. We still work with them.
There you go.
So it can work out for us. But yeah, to your point, that's a great time to look at media exposures if you're an established business and you're looking to maybe sell it. It gets eyeballs on you.
Yeah, totally. We've seen that. All right, so let's talk about when you launched. So talk about the prior venture and what happened there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was not great. So my wife and I were, I think, 27, 28, 2 and 3-year-old. It's like probably the best time to quit your jobs, right? And you just like bought a house. This is like a story of what not to do when you're under 30. But so I had worked in franchise marketing and franchise PR, so very familiar with different franchises, and I'd say no fault of anybody who had sold this, but I think we said, okay, we want to start our own business. And the best way to do that is to buy a franchise, right? And it was an emerging franchise. There was no territory in Illinois, so we'll be the first to launch in our state, right? And I think the reality was within a matter of months, I think we realized that, in this industry, which relied heavily on it was a home care franchise. So we relied heavily on receiving, payments from our government in terms of Medicaid and kind of working with, folks who need that home care support. And Illinois at that moment in time, and may still be the same case, like we were gonna have to wait like sort of 18 to 24 months to sort of get reimbursed for Medicaid.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think our pipeline was primarily, folks who were getting Medicaid or Medicare, which is fairly common when you're elderly, right? And so I think my wife and I turned to ourselves and said, like, I don't think this is going to work, right? And it just we didn't have the capital to inject in it, and
Yeah.
we didn't want to sort of go out begging for money. And it was, our franchisor was super, I think, great about the whole situation. And we had to bankrupt the business, which is like a very depressing thing.
Yeah.
Kind of eat crow, swallow your pride. I got a shoe thrown at me. My wife, she's never been violent. I'll never forget. And she tells the story to this day. Like, we're sitting in our kitchen, our house, and like I don't think I said anything, Andrew. She's just like, she was frustrated, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, it was like a slipper or something. It didn't hit me, but I was like, oh man, I was okay. I better watch out for shoes, I guess that's saying the shoe drops, and maybe it also flies it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, we got through that. We were able to keep our house, and through all this, I had also started Bear Icebox with a couple of friends from grad school. We went to Northwestern together, and the idea with Bear Icebox was it was going to be sort of this like loose like co-op of, we'll bring some clients in and do some freelance work. And within 6 months, that was my full-time job, and it was able to sustain us. We were creative about how we made that work. And, I was the only, sort of like loan that I received was like I think a $6,000 loan from my dad. I had to pay it back with interest, which is a great lesson to be taught. And we were able to keep that going. So that's it, out of the ashes of kind of a business that just didn't work out, able to grow Bear Icebox, and here we are today.
It happens all the time, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It happens all the time. And I think in some ways, that's the difference between people that end up having successful businesses and people that don't, is like, you didn't say, ah, shit, I'm just going to go find another job. You're like, no, I'm going to lean into this Bear Icebox business, and you're able to grow that. And now you have a successful business, right? Like the perseverance, the grit, the determination, like that, sometimes people are just like, all right, call it, I tried. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It total grit. And 3 or 4 years later, COVID was another kind of scary thing. I had one remaining partner from that, ended up buying him out and kind of being sole owner. And that was frightening too. Like in the middle of a pandemic when, I'm now taking over. But that was, I think, a moment where we were fortunate because we worked with a lot of B2B, and we had a lot of work in manufacturing and supply chain. And actually, with in 2020, my wife was a banker. She came in full time in the business after that, and we kind of never looked back. I think we said, okay, we're several years removed from this venture that didn't work. We realized like we love being entrepreneurs, and we took that leap of faith, if you will. And within 30 days, this is crazy. Like we brought on 2 clients that more than made up for the salary that she had, which is just like, I think sometimes it's a lesson for any entrepreneur, is like, I see a lot of people moonlight, and I get why they're doing it, because you want that safety net. But sometimes you got to just rip the Band-Aid off and go all in on something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or else it'll be stunted for a long time. It's funny. I was just talking to my wife about that. And she just yesterday put in her 2 weeks at her job because she's going all in on the new business, which is great, but it's scary, but you got to do it. So let's talk about the business now. What keeps you up at night now with the business?
Yeah, it's now that we have a team of 10 people, we've got a couple of we've got full timers here in Chicago. We've got a couple of people spread in different places. We've got a few people that help us with some of the back end, in El Salvador. So we've got like team members in different parts of the world. I think what keeps me up at night is like, it's going to sound really dorky, but like concerning like efficiency. Like I'm not the most organized person, but I know that like I need to be more organized. And so I always like, I don't know if you remember like the app, like Evernote came out like years and years ago. I remember like being one of the first users of that. And it's like, and that was like when I was in grad school. I've tried every project management system. Like I think over the years, like at agencies I've worked at and now at our own, I think we've tried like Monday, Basecamp, Asana, Trello, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's just this like innate desire to like be more efficient. I think with the advent of like ChatGPT and Claude and all the sort of AI tools that are in our toolkit, like it is this like temptation. We can be increasingly more efficient, right? But I think it can also be a bit of a trap. So I think that keeps me up at night, is like this weird fear that like we're not being as efficient as we could be, and someone else is going to be more efficient, therefore more productive and valuable to the client and profitable, right?
Mm-hmm. How does that surface in the business? I'm just trying to unpack that so I totally understand, because I'm always thinking the same ways. Like, how do we use there's so many amazing tools now, right? It's like shit for everything. How do we make sure all the team's using those? But is it that the efficiency impacts like client deliverables? Or is it that like you're not delivering on time, or you just want to make sure you're getting more out? Like, what is it?
Good question. I think it's we're good at sort of meeting deadlines. I think what it is, the efficiency play is like, is the team unnecessarily stressing themselves out because we're not being as efficient as we could be, and therefore, while we're like meeting deadlines, our productivity could be so much more if we were to just sort of have better processes in place. Like, I think we had a meeting like last week, and I'm pretty sure I used the term process like 30 times. And at some point, I'm like, this doesn't mean anything. The idea being, why is this person doing that task? Or this person doing that task? And in an agency, the lines are so blurred, Andrew, because like there's still things that I'm like, okay, well, this is not up to par. I got to step in, or our operations director steps in here. Then it's like, when do you step in? It is very much like a feeling, like, okay, I think we're there, especially in public relations, I would say, because a lot of what we do is sort of strategy and consulting for the client, which you can't just sort of like set it and forget it, or you're not sort of monitoring an upward or downward trend in terms of analytics or which is not to say I think digital marketing is like, it's incredibly important. It's just that it's maybe a little less technical what we do, so that human element, you need to train people to make sure that they can provide those services to clients. So yeah, I think it's that's what keeps me up at night, is it's growing pains, sort of stemming from like, are we efficient enough?
Yeah. Okay. And, I think all that sort of like weaves and intersects with accountability and delegation. Like, do you guys have a framework that you use for accountability and the rhythms within the business to make sure that, hey, if I delegate to you, you own this now, and what's happening? How do you keep a pulse on all that?
Yeah. I mean, we've implemented project management tools. We've got Asana, and it's been really helpful, but whatever software you use, it doesn't, it's only as good as the users sort of like leveraging it, the team kind of leveraging
it's like a CRM, garbage in, garbage out, right? Yeah.
So I think that's helpful. But what we've started to do is we've created a dashboard. I called it like our honey time tracker. And so every week I have the team, all of us, including, I do it, and our director, and down to our junior account coordinators. And what are your 5 to 8 priorities for the week, right? And then at the end of the week, we sort of see, have we done it? If we've done it, we give like early Friday afternoons. We kind of celebrate the wins. And this is a layer on top of Asana. Now I know I'm sure like a couple of team members like probably gave me eye rolls, like, well, now I have to do something above and beyond it. But the idea is like, if we are prioritizing like our most important tasks, and everybody on the team knows what we're doing, at least we're taking ownership of the things that have to get done this week. And if other things come in, we can sort of address that. But I think it's really giving the team autonomy to sort of be decision makers on what tasks need to get done. Course correcting is needed, but there's larger agencies, maybe a more top-down approach makes sense, where it's like, this is what you do every week, and I'm going to give you all your tasks. But I really think giving people autonomy, there's some growing pains to make sure that they're doing the things they need to be doing, but in the long run, you're training them to be hopefully more efficient. You're training them to maybe advance and grow in our business or elsewhere.
Sure.
And so I think that's kind of the direction we take.
I like that. I think I've heard of a similar, I don't know if it's Musk or somebody, and choose a polarizing figure these days, but there's somebody, I forget who, has a similar 5-5 framework, right? Where it's every week, tell me the 5 most important things you're doing this week, tell me the 5 things you got accomplished last week. I think it's different than just the typical projects, tasks in Asana, because it zooms out, right? And I think that you need that type of structure for alignment, right? Because you don't want to have to micromanage, but in order to give people the autonomy and the freedom, there has to be a structure and a system in place, right? So like at MAP, what we do is everybody has vital factor goals, right? And so my team, everybody, we sit down every month and we look at the broader picture of what we're trying to accomplish as a team and as an organization and say, okay, what are we each going to do this month that's going to march us closer to the goal, right? And you need to have really good goals that we all agree to. You agree you're going to do it. I agree you're going to do it. It's realistic. We can measure it later. And then if we have that in place, then every week we get together. Okay, what are you working on? What are the top priorities? Does it align towards what we talked about, right? We're making sure that there's alignment so that at the end of the month, we know we're getting closer to our goal and we can measure that. And that's I think, a really important piece for teams and for accountability.
Yeah, I think that's great what you all have. And question for you, like, is management sort of actively taking a part of it too, and sort of being transparent about their goals too? It's not just, I
Totally.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Because it has to cascade, right? So if the organization is trying to do, I don't know, 50 million this year or 50 million this quarter, and what does that mean for this department? What does that mean for the individuals? Like, it all should stitch together. If it's disjointed, then you're never going to hit the goal, right? You have to make sure that it all locks in together. It's all a piece of the puzzle. And so it's good to have visibility. Now, they may not know. It just depends on every CEO or owner has a different philosophy around transparency. And so I've worked with some folks that are not transparent with EBITDA or profit margin or whatever. That's fine. You can just create different goals. And some people love transparency. So you choose what you want to share, but you at least have to share where we're going, right? What do you expect from me as an individual, from my department, or else how am I supposed to direct my team and make sure that we're moving in the right direction?
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name's Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We work with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
Yeah. I think it's like, as a CEO, entrepreneur, founder, right? You're like the conductor of an orchestra or symphony, right? So I think that's the part that I think is most exciting about it, but also can be the most challenging. Is like, you have to trust that third chair cello player, violinist is like gonna play their notes, right? That you've given them the right notes.
Well, yes, that's what's so hard. It is hard because, like, you trust but verify. I'm going to trust you. This is your goal, but I can't just leave. I think oftentimes people make the mistake of like, well, I told him that he had to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, dude, did you check in? Did you give him the stuff that he needs? Did he have the right training, the right coaching, the right resources? Because if not, like, of course he's going to fail.
Yeah.
So like it's trust but verify. It's making sure people are set up for success. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And I think oftentimes like, well, I told him or I told her, like, and they just didn't do it.
It's a pet peeve of mine, and I'll see with founders too. It's like you're blaming people that you hired for the business.
You hired them. Yeah.
Like, and sometimes they do make mistakes for sure, but like, I think that accountability should start with you, right? If it's your
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you, as whether you're the manager or the CEO or whatever, you own it, right? And so I totally agree. Like, I think of some of the situations I've seen with like salespeople. Well, that salesperson did his job. Well, he didn't have any price sheets. He didn't have messaging. He didn't know who he was supposed to reach out to. Like, you didn't equip that person with what they needed to do their job. You don't think they can sell? Of course they can sell. That's what they do for a living. You didn't give them what they needed to do their job. And so I think that happens a lot. Yeah.
And sometimes you got to understand that people aren't going to always ask for those resources. Not that they're being lazy necessarily. It's that maybe there's just a blocker there that you're not aware of. But I would always say, the thing I tell our team is over communicate, whether it's with our clients, with each other, over communicate. And that includes you as a CEO, over communicate. So I love what you said about like, you don't have to share every single number, but I think sharing something like, here's where we're going for. Like, I had a meeting at the beginning of the year and said, here's our profit goals. Here's what it takes to get there. Here's what you get out of it. Because I think you also have to tell people like, hey, this means more bonuses. This means potential to grow in our business. Because, I think that people want skin in the game and feel like they're part of a winning team.
They absolutely do. And it's interesting because the motivation is different for everybody. Some people are just purely money motivated and, hey, awesome, great. Let's put a compensation plan together for you. Maybe there's incentives or commissions or whatever. Other people, it's more about like, hey, I want to continue growing and learning. And so, okay, great. Let's put that. So you have to understand the personal motivations of the team and ensure that you're communicating and look, people are selfish, right? And not in a bad way, but like they want to know, hey, I'm working for you. Are you investing in me?
Yeah. Right? It's so true. I mean, we're selfish. Like I'm as an entrepreneur, like starting your own company, saying I can do it better than anybody else. There's a level of selfishness that comes through that. It's just but I think it's figuring out with your employees like what gets them excited. Sometimes, Andrew, it's just like saying, "Hey, Andrew, you did a really good job on that. I really, really love how that turned out." Like that is sometimes people just want positive affirmation, and too often founders are flying so fast they don't just sit and say like, wow, I'm really grateful to have you on our team. Like that makes somebody's day, right?
I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. I don't know if it's insecurity. I mean, I see it with sometimes with first-time founders where it's like insecurity, especially if they're hiring older people and they're just afraid to do it. But I'll share a story that our CEO, Mike, did when and I've known Mike for, 15, 20 years now. And I joined MAP about a year ago. I had a couple other businesses with a business partner. We sold them. And I get this card in the mail and it's not addressed, and it's from MAP. It's from Mike, but it's not addressed to me. It's addressed to my wife. And so she opens it, and he had taken the time to write her a letter saying, thank you so much for, having Andrew join the company. Really look forward to having him join and getting to know you better. And I was like, holy shit. Like just that little personal touch of appreciation and gratitude, like went so far with me and with her. It's just amazing. Right. And I think a lot of people don't think of those small things.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm like, I need to do more of that.
It's hard. It's hard because you're busy.
Yeah. But what I've found is, again, it's something I've tried over the years and don't always succeed in it. But, whether it's like a gratitude journal or just acknowledging the things you're grateful for, it's so easy at the end of the day to be like, oh my God, this thing happened, or, oh, there's an issue here. I had to put out the fire there. But why don't we just end our night and say like, oh, here's the 3 things that were awesome today,
Yeah.
From our business or just from our lives. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have in my, been working in tech and computers for 25 years, but I'm paper, for all my checklists and things to do. And I used to intentionally write down, recognize one person, thank one person. And there was one more I forget, but just making sure that like I'm doing that every day or every week, right? I don't think every day, maybe it was at once a week, just to make sure that I'm getting those in, because you need those reminders sometimes, life is busy.
Yeah, and the other person's gonna love it, but I think you as the deliverer of that gratitude message, you often get more out of it than they do, right? It's just centering your life and you're looking at the world through the lens of gratitude, not greed or frustration or envy or anything,
Yeah. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about, so you are in Vistage, right? How long have you been in Vistage?
I've been in Vistage for, I think, almost 2 years now. Yeah.
Okay. Talk about, I've never been in a Vistage group.
Okay.
Talk to me about what you get out of that from a professional level. And I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, funny, my Vistage chair, the team had I was having a meeting with him before everybody came to the office. It was in the morning. And when they walked in, I think one team member thought I had joined a cult because like there was like a contract and everything. It was just like, it wasn't anything too formal, but jokes aside, like Vistage is a network of CEOs and not just CEOs, but also like leaders in companies, executives that meet regularly on a monthly basis in these sort of small groups of 15 to 25, but then also monthly we have a one-on-one check-in with a coach. And our coach is here in Chicago, absolutely amazing guy. He Kevin has been through the ringer. He's had businesses succeed, fail, all in between. And it's typically people that are seasoned entrepreneurs. And the idea, Andrew, is we all kind of process these issues. So every meeting will have 4 to 5 issues and it's a very streamlined way of doing it that is sort of proprietary to Vistage. But I've gotten so much out of these issues, not just processing mine, but processing people in our group. It's like, to use a modern term, it's like a safe space for entrepreneurs, right? And it allows us to sort of vent a little bit, but more importantly, come to solutions in our own business kind of through our group share. So, nobody's selling anybody, because I've been to groups before that's like a networking event and a group where people are, nobody's passing out cards and trying to get your business. Sometimes like you might get business from it, but that's not the point of it. And I really like that, because I sort of can't stand those kind of groups, like local chambers of Congress or even associations. I think there's some good ones, some not so good ones, but with Vistage, it really is about just becoming a better entrepreneur, better leader of your team. And it's in our business, I've seen it help us grow and expand. Okay. Just because it's given me the confidence as a young CEO, young entrepreneur, that I think I may have been lacking. And it just allows you to look at your business in a broader sense. And for me, at least, it really helped me kind of work more on my business, less in my business, which is one of those cliches, but reality.
No, it's true, man. It's true. You have to have the time to do it. You just can't be running around working in it all the time. Vistage sounds similar to EO in a way. EO has a strict non-selling policy. You can't, and they have strict rules around that. But it sounds similar to that forum concept that they have. What do you think that is? If you could improve that, the experience of Vistage in some way, how would you do that?
Yeah. So I think our one-on-ones are fantastic. I think the group sessions are really good too. What I would the way I might improve it is, so we have this big all group session, and it's not even so much an improvement, but having more sort of breakouts with individual members. And so like I'm getting lunch next week with somebody who's sort of more in the marketing space, right? And it's encouraged, but I think to make the most out of those groups is sort of figure out, okay, like this big 15, 20 person, we're processing this is great, but maybe 3 to 5 of us are in a similar space. We might have sort of more shared experiences that we can kind of, process in a smaller group. So maybe like quarterly mini breakout sessions that are sort of related more to, professional services, or we've got some guys that are in engineering or insurance or something, but just sort of have those where you keep it a little more isolated to your industry, because I love the monthly meetings, but there are moments when like there's an issue that maybe is more relevant to to somebody who has a consulting business or a professional services business. Yeah,
Totally. You're talking about something in manufacturing. You're like, dude, that is, I doesn't relate. Doesn't compute.
The tariffs. I mean, the tariffs affect my clients potentially, but I'm not charging more or less based on tariffs.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we recently put in a similar program with MAP, but that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting because some people are like, I don't want to be in with other CEOs because maybe there's some sensitive, but some people, and I think I would view the same way, like, look, there's enough business for everybody, right?
Yeah.
We're going to compete regardless. Let's talk about how we can all grow together, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, even here in Chicago, we have a monthly PR owner agency lunch, and I don't go all the time, but it's like, I mean, these are people that potentially are direct competitors, right?
Yeah,
and we'll get lunch, and I love it because, I've worked over the years with folks that I think are very fearful of competitors, not just fearful, but like keeping a close eye. And I get that, but the reality, dude, you have to focus on what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're spending so much time on competitors and sort of, let's say, living in fear, like your business isn't going to evolve and shape and take its own, live its own life, right? So I think I'd rather like learn and share within reason people that are in my industry than sort of covet this information for myself.
And by the way, you have a particular focus and niche, and another agency might have something completely different. They may end up referring you business if you develop a relationship.
It's happened, and I've been referred several times, which is fantastic. On the flip side, if there's something that we don't quite do, I'll refer to a partner, a marketing agency. And I think that, again, it's know what your niche is, yes, and then maybe if it's somebody that's also doing B2B manufacturing PR in Chicago or something, or working with franchise, I'm not going to refer to them, but yeah, and or maybe I will if it's too small or too big for us, right? But I think you just have to, that is one of those things that I think oftentimes people don't realize the value of just like having those like loose referral, not like a formal, like Andrew's getting 10%. I mean, we have some of those, but like some of them are just like, oh, this is, do you want to work this? And then when I think, and also I've seen when I refer those, it's, again, this might be like the universe talking, but I'll get things in return from other people randomly. And I'm like, okay, wow, I kicked 2 things to somebody and now I've got 2 leads from somebody. This is wild,
Yep.
So,
yeah. I think it's important to make those connections, and introductions are just network, and things have a way of coming back eventually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the team that you have now. We talked a little bit about delegation, accountability, trusting them. How do you go about training your people and making sure that they're A players? Do you have training in place? Do you have do you send them outside to training? How do you go about that?
Yeah, we just had a training session yesterday, actually, as a matter of fact, with somebody who works with us as she's been with me since the start, and she's a crisis communications consultant. She really focused more on like strategic messaging, and so her and her business partner came in yesterday, and we had just like a very, I would say intense, but like a very sort of hands-on interactive training about really crafting messaging for our clients and kind of what that looks like, what questions to ask, how to have tough conversations with clients, which is oftentimes one of the hardest things for newer PR professionals to do. Is we're in an industry, Andrew, where like if you get into PR, you're probably a people pleaser, or like there's something about it, like you're constantly working with people and with media and clients. And so when like a client's just wrong, I've often found like that's when I need to course correct one of our team members and be like, no, push back on that. Like that's not, don't just do everything. Like the client is the client is always right. I'm like, I call BS on that. Like the client isn't always right. And I think that's one of those things we train the team on. So to answer your question, we do these monthly training sessions. We also look to outside resources too. Like there's, fortunately being in Chicago, there's a ton of workshops and seminars. We subscribe to like different databases too that kind of can provide webinars. We encourage it. And I think the key with that is there are some things like yesterday's that are mandatory, but there are also some things again, back to the autonomy. I believe in like kind of part of measuring someone's performance and growth is how excited or active are they in like asking for additional education and resources? And we have a pool of resources allocated to say, like, we tell our team, if you find something, we will pay for it. Like, let us know. And I think the reason why we don't just say, go to this, Andrew, or go to that, is we want to see like what they're digesting and what they're interested in. And because I think that's a way to sort of measure how engaged and, and how ready somebody is to step into leadership roles.
Got it. Okay. Looking ahead, what are your goals for the next 12, 24 months with the business?
Yeah. So our goals were this year, we're on pace to hopefully double top line revenue, which I know
Nice.
is like, that's sort of a sexy stat, but I think I'm more interested in kind of with that, also looking at bottom line profit margins, trending with that too. But beyond that, I think in the next 12 to 24 months, like our team is 10, I think if we continue on this pace, I'd love to be a team of, 20 to 25 people. I think looking at diversifying, I would say, offerings that are sort of ancillary to what we do. So, increasingly people are looking for, influencer relationships, even in the B2B space, like, so kind of brokering some of those, kind of getting more embedded in that. That's a sort of obvious, like, ancillary part of media relations is influencer relations. Looking at doing some more content, sort of playing deeper in the owned space, right? So we do a lot of earned media, but look, we're owned media for our clients. And then building out our referral partnerships. We talked about it just a minute ago. Is like, as we expand, I feel more comfortable kind of like working more on the business, just being out there and engaging with people. Like I love sort of building those like referral networks that are a win-win for everybody. So, and then lastly, I would say, Andrew, we've been experimenting with, as everybody has, like, is with different AI tools, but I would love to create kind of like a highly scalable offering for somebody who is a startup who can't afford like a large PR budget, but still get some value out of it. So, we've been kind of experimenting with different PR toolkits and what that looks like, and is there really value in it? But I think if we crack that code, that would be a fantastic way to give sort of an entry level PR toolkit to somebody that maybe can't afford a larger retainer.
That's a great idea. So thinking through all those goals, what might get in the way of you achieving them?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a therapy session here. But my wife, who's my co-owner with me, obviously, she says it's often like I'll get in the way of myself. And I know it's like a very like weird thing to say as an owner, but I think like I do. I sometimes, I have a habit of analysis paralysis where it's just like, okay, well, or like thinking of, in part of our role as PR pros to think steps ahead of what might happen if we do this or do that. But I think sometimes that gets in the way of just like growing these sort of things in the business. So yeah, I mean, taking a step back and also realizing we've got a great team in place. We've got, as we grow our processes, like letting them do their job, realizing some eggs are going to be broken, and that's okay. Like you have to keep growing it. So yeah, getting out of my own way and just treating this less of something. This is hard for a founder. It's something I started, but it's now something that can run without me at the steering wheel all the time.
Yes, for sure. I think oftentimes when somebody comes to Map for the first time, they come to that realization that sometimes they are the bottleneck in the business with the growth. And then going through the process and learning more about how to improve all sorts of things, whether it's accountability or process or systems or delegation, and just putting the right system in place can help remove that bottleneck from the business. And that helps to accelerate the growth. So that happens a lot, man. Happens a lot. Last question. So we ask this to everybody that comes on the show. Is there anything maybe unique or unique habit, system, process that you do at Bear Icebox that others listening might be able to adopt and put into their business to improve?
It's a good question. I mean, I think maybe that honey time tracker. I think I'm sure everybody's asking their team like, what are you working on this week, or has a project management system in place. But I think sort of giving numbers to it, 5 we've got to do for the week, and then kind of having that be transparent across the organization. I think transparency sort of breeds accountability and breeds ideally efficiency and success, right? So I think that having sort of an all-in sort of tracker to say what are our priorities, a dashboard, it's been working for us. So I think that's something that more businesses who are maybe struggling with either accountability or project delegation could look at.
Awesome. Okay. Before we wrap, Bob, where can people go to learn more about the business or connect with you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is best for me. Just Bob Spoerl, Spoerl. You don't spell it the way it sounds when you say it. But also Bear Icebox, BearIcebox, bearicebox.com is a good way to connect with us.
Awesome. And how'd you come up with the name, by the way?
Yeah, so our co-founders, my name's Bob, Eric, and Alex are the three guys that started this thing. And we scrambled our names in like a name generator. And then I don't know how it came up with Bear Icebox because there's no L. And so I always just said like the L is like a lowercase, or the I is like a lowercase L for Alex. So it's Bear Icebox.
Okay. That's funny.
I wish I had a better reason.
No, that's pretty good, actually. Cool. Well, thanks so much, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.